We are about to embark on an immersive journey through the corridors of our minds. Stand by as we prepare for departure.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to the Productivity with Peace of Mind podcast adventure. Our journey will begin in just a moment. Inhale deeply and exhale. Our voyage takes us on a captivating tour, diving deep into the intricate layers of our thoughts and imagination. Brace yourselves for the complexities of our evolution. For a safe and enjoyable journey, stay seated, secure your helmet and protective goggles, and keep hands, feet, and legs inside while the ride is moving. Now relax and enjoy.
Are in complete control of your results because you're the one making the day to day decisions in your life. Being a great decision maker is a big part of achieving our goals in order to be able to live the life we want to live. Today, I want to talk to you about how we always have a choice, no matter what we're facing, and becoming a great decision maker and becoming very clear and efficient when you're doing so increases your chances for success. We always have a choice, whether we think or not. And it can be easy to feel like we're stuck and we don't have any options. But sometimes what we're actually faced with is two bad choices or two less than great choices in front of us. And sometimes we just have to pick the lesser bad or the lesser of two evils in order to then move forward and get closer to your next set of choices. But the one thing that I want you to take away, and I want all of us to remember, including myself, is that we always have a choice and we are never stuck. There will always be external environments and experiences happening outside of us that are out of our control, but our choices that we make every single day, from the tiniest choices that seem mundane and unimportant to the really big and life changing decisions, we alter what we're experiencing in our everyday life by being able to pick these different things. And if we're not doing it intentionally, and we're not thinking through and being really clear or have any kind of process on how to be a good decision maker, we can end up where we don't want to be. So, we'll explore together today the nature of choice and how that shows up, how to navigate difficult decisions, especially when they're really big, and then aligning those choices that we do make on a regular basis with our longer term goals and priorities. We'll start with the nature of choice and what that actually is. To be able to make a choice is our ability to select between alternative options. So that could be anything from what you decide to put in your body in the morning when you're having breakfast, or the type of movement you decide to engage in every day, whether that's being a part of a sport or staying active, being a part of a community, the career and jobs and work and projects that we choose to be a part of. And this all affects what we're learning, the outcome of our health. Every aspect of our life is a result of these selections. And even the little choices that we make, like maybe it's having a piece of candy or going for dessert after a meal, that can be a habit that many of us have. And while in the moment it might not feel like it has very much impact, and maybe that one piece of candy or that one dessert in that one moment doesn't, doing that again and again adds up and has a long-term compounding effect for the results that we're receiving. So if we have goals around our health, this isn't going to help us, and we know that. What happens when our choices and decisions in everyday life don't align with our bigger vision and goal for ourselves? A lot of anxiety can come because we know deep down that we're not doing the things we need to do and actually want to do that maybe just feel hard or not in our patterns in order to reach the goals that we've set for ourselves. But whether you know it or not, every single decision you make has a direct impact on your life. I remember the first time I started my own business and I was operating more out of survival mode because shortly after I was laid off, I had to very quickly replace my income. And in doing so, I ended up doing different types of work that weren't exactly what were in line with my intentions, but I did it to get by. And then it kind of spiraled and snowballed into more work that I wasn't particularly wanting to do. And so that's a great example of decisions that we can make that roll us into a result that we're not exactly intending for. So if you allow yourself to have something supplementary that carries you in order to allow you to make the decisions that actually serve you long term, or find a way to create space and create a foundation that supports you in being more intentional in some of those longer term decisions that you're going to make. This allows us to be happier in our everyday life because we're being more intentional about what we're actually doing versus feeling like we're out of control of where the car is driving or where we're going to end up. And there are also temporary decisions that we end up making where we understand, okay, I'm deciding to do this to be able to create a foundation that supports me in a way that I can then work toward my bigger goal. But what we don't want is those supplementary things or temporary things to take over as full time things, because that's when our outcome is decided for us versus us being in that driver's seat. I also want to acknowledge the complexity of decision making. Sometimes it can feel really difficult to make some bigger decisions in our lives and understand what that actually takes in order to make the best decision. The unfortunate news is that we're never going to know until we just take action and learn. And most things that we decide on and most changes or things we decide to do in our life, we can go back and go the other way if we want to. That's the thing we sometimes forget is like we are still in the driver's seat. And so we can go back and take another route if this route doesn't work. And honestly, for me, the best way I have figured out what works is by figuring out what doesn't work. And that can be really uncomfortable for those of us who aren't comfortable and familiar with embracing failure, but it really is the best way. One of the best analogies I like to use for this is navigating a maze. Let's say you're at a fall festival and they have a corn maze that you're going to walk through with your friends, and you're going through the maze and you take one route that hits a dead end. You don't give up on that dead end and you don't give up on the maze and you think, well, I failed, I'm just going to go back to where I started. No, you keep going because you understand that it is literally part of the maze to figure out this route didn't work, so I'm going to try this route. And if that one doesn't work, I'm going to try the next one. And that's kind of the approach that I've taken on with decision making, is that we really do need to take action in some shape or form to figure out what doesn't work. So, like if you're looking at a career change or if you're looking at a new role that you want to take on and you're not sure if where you're at now or where you're considering going is better, going in and talking to people who are doing it or just starting the role. You can probably go back to a different role if you want to. It may take time, but it's not something you can't just go back to. But looking and spending the time to see what does that role take, talk to other people who do it. You want to research and gather information, but we also don't want to get stuck there either, because we can sit and spin and overwhelm and indecision and go back and forth. And then our brains think we're being super productive because we're weighing all these ideas and all of these thoughts, but we're not actually getting anywhere. We end up just sitting in that rocking chair, rocking back and forth, feeling like we're so busy. And we actually didn't get anywhere. We're still sitting on the porch. So actually getting out there, taking action, doing the thing, figuring out what works. Maybe you start the second job on a trial basis just to test out some different things. Maybe, there's always different options that we haven't considered. That's another thing I think that our brains can trick us on, is that there's only two choices. It's not always A or B. There's often a C or a D or an E or an F. that we haven't even considered yet, or some kind of hybrid or blend or something completely new entirely. And we don't find that until we start moving in that direction and actually doing something to change our environment, change our behavior so that we can actually live into it and figure out what actually works for us. And of course, you can sit down and make your pros and cons list. You can weigh the different options and learn as much as you want to be able to go in and actually figure out what's going to be best for you. But at the end of the day, set a timeline for yourself to actually make the decision, commit to it for a certain period of time. You don't have to commit to it forever. Nothing is life or death. Nothing is end all be all. Well, some things are, but most of the decisions we're making for this context are not. And so just commit to that. Even commit to it for 30 days, whatever it is that you want to set for a timeline, but pick an end date so that you can reassess and recheck in with yourself on what's really going to work for you. I remember when I was going through a big career transition a couple of years ago, I was unsure what next career step I wanted to take. In the former career, I was wearing so many hats and doing so many different things. But one of my biggest desires in being challenged and up leveling myself and getting to that next step was to narrow that down and hone in certain skills that I had been building and growing upon. What I knew for sure was that there were two different aspects of the role that were my favorite, and one of which were HR. I loved the people piece, I loved development, coaching, leadership development, and all of that. And then I also loved project management. So I was able to immediately narrow it down and eliminate what I didn't want and consider the pieces that I could immediately remove from the picture. But then, even as I was interviewing and having different conversations and looking at different roles that were out there, there were so many different roles that either of the two and or both skill sets that I wanted to hone in on further could fall under. And there were so many industries that I was looking at that would lead me down completely different paths and have completely different lives and results. So, as I was going through the process of deciding what that would be, I narrowed it down and I decided that it was really important for me to work for a team that was really passionate about the people working for them, like the actual human beings in each role. And that development and coaching and growth and career paths were important to the company for everybody. I wanted to be part of a company that valued everybody's growth opportunity and was continuing to evolve and evolve quickly. And so when I sat down for the interview for the position I'm currently in, I listened to the leaders talk about how passionate they were about their people, and they literally had a gold card that they showed me over the video call that showed one of their big values was passion for people. And this completely sold me on the team, on the company, because seeing it in their face, and also I knew that it was real because I could see it in their eyes. I could see it in their expression. They lit up. They got excited when they talked about the things that they were working on and the ways that I could jump in and make a real impact. And that got me excited. The things that I was looking for was a company that knows where it's going, that has a bigger vision and wants to bring everybody along and has the environment of innovation. And so, knowing all these things, knowing what actually matters to you, also helps us clearly make that decision. This is where our higher level goals and visions and intentions, or word of the year, all of these things help us very clearly, quickly, and easily make decisions because we know, yes, this exactly falls under my bigger plan, or no, it doesn't. It's actually outside of that. While, maybe a couple of things might be good or it might have this intriguing thing over here, it doesn't actually align with what it is that I want to do. So that helps us really quickly eliminate what doesn't fit. And not just knowing what that higher picture is, but also staying focused on it. So going back to consistency and actually continuing to say no to those distractions and anything that's less important, or maybe something comes in that's an exciting opportunity, but it doesn't fit in that greater picture. The ability to continue to say no and to continue to field your own intentional tunnel vision on that one goal, that one thing, that one direction that you want to go in will help you actually get there versus being pulled in every direction or saying yes to every little distraction or trying to serve everybody. We end up not doing the one thing that we wanted to do or make that big decision for us. And we get pulled aside where everyone else wants us to be. We have to be able to resist certain temptations and say no to certain instant gratifications. I know like health and food are such easy examples and commonly used, but for a reason because it's in our everyday life for all of us. And being able to delay that gratification of that piece of cake or that piece of candy or that dessert or whatever it is that you might be enjoying. Maybe it's a sugary coffee drink, whatever it is, delaying that gratification to later and being able to really soak in and enjoy your health that you've attained because you practiced constraint and not giving into every little thing that showed up. It helps us long term because we're actually compounding those results and getting to where we want to be because we were patient, because we stayed focused, because we kept our eye on the prize and knew exactly where we were going and we didn't stop. Sure, there will be setbacks, there will be things, but ultimately we continue going. We continue, you hit that dead end in the maze and then you turn around and you keep going and you continue to find your way to your own destination that you have desired and built a map for yourself to get to. Ultimately, you own your own decisions, whether it's been intentional or not in the past. You are in charge and you have the power to shape your life from the tiniest to the biggest decisions and choices you make every day of your life. So let's look at our choices as opportunities to grow, to learn, to continue to figure out what works for us. They're not obstacles to be avoided. They're not these things that get in our way. Oh, I have to make a decision now, and this feels really difficult. And be compassionate with yourself because we're not always going to make the right decision, but that never means we've failed. It only means that we've learned. Like, I want you to just write it down or like put it somewhere like that your everything comes back to learning and figuring out what works, what doesn't. No matter what the outcome is of any decision, of any choice, of anything that you ever decide to go out and do, you're learning something and you are growing as a person and you are different. You are evolving. Like the makeup of you is changing because you made a decision, because you moved forward. That is how we grow. And I'm going to throw this in there again because it's important. And I know I talk about it a lot, but meditation or any kind of mindfulness practice or ability to slow down and take time for ourselves, that could be thinking time, walking time, slow time in the morning with your cup of coffee. It doesn't matter, but any kind of slowness brings us more clarity as well so that we know how to make better decisions for ourselves. When I was in the midst of making my own decision about my divorce many years ago, I remember there was so much going on and so many people and so many opinions and so many things and blah, 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 blah. Like my brain was just spinning and spinning and spinning. I couldn't find any quiet within me. So I went to my parents' house and I packed, it was cold, actually, it was in the fall. So I like bundled up with all these layers. I grabbed a pen and a notebook. I left my phone behind. I had no technology, no people, nothing. It was just me. And I walked all the way out to the back of the woods. They live on many, many acres of land. And I walked way out there. I don't even know how far it was. And I climbed up this old tree house that I used to play in as a kid. And I just sat there and I thought, and I sat and I thought. And as important things came up, I would write and download everything that had been spinning and spinning in my brain. And eventually, I think after 3 or 4 hours, I don't know if I ran out of thoughts or if I got too cold, but eventually I headed back with the solid decision that divorce was what I was going to do. And it was time to let go and say goodbye because that situation I was in at the time wasn't serving me. And it was time for something new. So if you need to take time for yourself, walk away, go find some silence, go find some place where you can find the inner peace within you. Because at the end of the day, you know what's the next best decision for you. you just got to go take it. You just have to go do it. And it doesn't have to be a big, grandiose gesture either. You don't have to drive to your parents' house, climb a tree house, and sit there for 4 hours. That's not necessary. You can go to a separate room. You can go sit in the bathroom for 10 minutes and lock the door if you have certain life circumstances like children or a lot of people in your life where it is harder to get away. It is harder to find that quiet and that space. Find somewhere that you can go, the car, anywhere, and have that moment for you. Take that time, find the pockets. We all have pockets. We don't have to wait for big, long sections of time that are open for us. We can find the little bits, the 5 minutes, the 10 minutes, the 15 minutes, 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be for you to process and to think and to make a decision. So let's commit to each other that we will align our choices and our decisions we make, whether they're the really big ones that can feel life altering or the little decisions we make every day. Let's make sure we slow down and think, are they aligned with my long term goals, with my priorities for what it is I actually want, for how I want my life to actually be and feel, and how I want to experience it? The power is within you, and it always has been. You have the clarity. We just have to slow down, listen, and take the time to hear what it is in order to live intentionally. Every choice has the ability to shape our future and our everyday life. So let's choose wisely and trust in our own ability, our own innate wisdom within us to navigate this journey. I believe in you. Thank you for braving the inside of your mind with me. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we understand the world. And as our awareness grows, life just gets better and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review and share this with anyone else you think could benefit from listening. A quick reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, and the discussions here are not a substitute for professional advice. If you're dealing with a specific issue or need personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified professional. Your well-being is important, and this podcast is simply a platform for sharing insights and experiences. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time.